Hello. Today we're going to do something different. We've been talking about terminology and the basis and the basics of philosophy, terminology and meaning of the fundamental words that we use. But we also have in the title aesthetics and poetics, which means poetics in a broad sense, aesthetics, art, and flow. And so we want to encompass this flow or grace and beauty in our talks as well. And some people think philosophy can be too coarse and too heavy. So today we're going to try and become more fluent in our talk to try and bring about the beauty in wisdom and in philosophy and bring some grace both physically in our talk as well as the subject of grace and flowing, so that life can become more beautiful as you become wiser and you begin to understand what makes things work in order to be deeply satisfied in our approach toward life and understanding, and why we study wisdom and not get turned off by the words and say it's too deep for me and other cliches. We should examine our lives, and we have talked about that, what the importance of examining our lives. And so we should see some results. And one of the results is to have a better sense of well-being. So today I want to lighten things up and flow through our talk. And I want to reach a point, use a little imagination, and feel as if we're going someplace. Today we want to try and reach a place in our talk, and we won't examine every word. We'll assume, we'll take that responsibility that people will understand what we're talking about. If not, it's okay, because we're trying to reach a plateau. We can't stop along the path in order to pick the roses. We're going to imagine we want to get to a place. Let's pretend we're going to get to a place that has a pond and we want to set up a tent before the night is through or the day is through. Sort of see the pond at dusk, see the becoming stars come out, see some of the beauty of the vegetation around the pond before we make the campfire and put up that tent. So we won't have the time to go through our foundations. If we're building a castle, having importance for a foundation. Today we're just going to try and take a hike along a path and get to a place. So we will not stop along the way to examine all the words. We will come back to it if necessary. If we see a patch or a place with roses and say, let's come back to that someday, we can do that. But today we're going to try and bring some flowing into our talk. So let's try and use our imagination a little bit and keep moving, and forgive ourselves for making assumptions on definition of words so that we can keep moving. Now, one of the things right away that so let's move. Pretend we're moving along the path right now, and we're walking along the path. And as I talk, we're moving ahead forward. So we'll be talking as we walk in a meditative state, in a state of, I won't say joy, but a deep satisfied state. We're not too happy. We're not elated, but we're feeling good. We don't really realize we're walking. We're feeling good. Every time we step, less stress comes out. As you know, when you walk, you feel better, and you don't really think of it as a struggle. Matter of fact, you enjoy the walk. And occasionally, I will take a drink, and there'll be a little pause in our talk because I feel better that way, more relaxed. So let's get going. Let's move. Don't linger. Let us talk about beauty, talk about grace. Because if philosophy can't bring grace, and you don't see that, and you become so analytical that you can't be deeply satisfied and rewarded and have a sense of well-being, we're not accomplishing the full attributes of wisdom. We're getting too scientific, too analytical, and tensed up, stressed up possibly. So we got to remember to keep flowing and enjoy life with a sense of tranquility and contentment. The older philosophers of Greece talked about happiness a great deal, Aristotle especially, and we know words change over and meanings change over thousands of years or hundreds of years. After reading Aristotle, I have a sense that he's talking of long-term happiness. But I don't like to think about happiness using the term too much because it gives an elated state. And we know that an elated state often brings about an opposite of that, which is sadness. So we kind of want to live life in a certain well-being. And most philosophers and psychologists will agree on that if they have to. And I've seen this happen. When if they meet and they have to discuss something, they pretty much agree that well-being is a good goal for people to set. Not so much as to be happy all the time. And I think deep satisfaction is what I like to think about. A deep satisfaction in life. So as we walk along, let's keep a sense of well-being that we're walking along, a sense of motivation, determination that you're reaching toward beauty, toward truth, that this is a deep, satisfying feeling as you walk, and you sort of let the stress come off of you as we walk, and see the beauty around us, see the growth is a part of that beauty, see the flowing. Now, people will get off the track, get off the path, and walk in the briars. They do this all the time, searching for truth. Now, it seems to me there's only one way to truth. There's different ways to get there, but there's only one truth. Now, I'm not going to analyze that today, but we might come back to that patch and discuss that. But basically, truth is truth. What is. But there's many ways to get there. People like to struggle. People like to, I won't say they like to, but they tend toward struggling sometimes. They go through the briars when they don't have to. They want to go off the path. Right now, let's stay with the path. One with the path. That's what Eastern philosophers wise people have been saying years, centuries. One with the path, oneness with the path. And in Western philosophy, we have something similar in the early Greeks, where they talk about harmony with nature, or one with nature, or one with nature's laws. So I think this is a great virtue, something that one should do. When you get off the path, you have to regroup and come back, or you get banged up. Make life hard for yourself. Well, you really don't. Let's take advice from some wise people. When we find a truth, let's live by it. Let's apply it to our life so we can flow gently and be deeply satisfied. And it's rewarding. And we can get to that pond quicker. And we have realizations and awareness. When we get to that pond, when we set up our tent, we're going to relax and see the beauty around us in a different light. We'll have that stress away from us after we have this beautiful walk. So let's keep that in mind. But that brought up another point about language and how we use it. One of the main ways of feeling good about yourself, feeling good about life, is terminology and how you use words. These opposites often cause problems. There's two types of theories on this. For instance, there's these opposite, the yin and yang of life, and then there's another theory where you look at something and say, well, a mark is not set up to be missed. Therefore, there's no evil in the world. It's just an absence of goodness. Now, you can also relate that to colors, where black is not a color, but an absence of color, where every other color either has light or is a color. So, there is an absence of things. Instead of saying that an opposite of something, there's just an absence of a positive thing. So when you talk, you say, for instance, truth. You might say, well, what's the opposite of truth? I don't know. I can't think of the right word, but non-truth or but goodness, opposite is evil. But if we just say there's an absence of goodness to that person, we have a more positive approach to life. I can give you a lot of examples of this, but I'm struggling right now. But if you keep thinking of positive things, like say an athlete gets up in the morning and he says, well, today I don't feel at my peak. So since I'm not at my peak, I may, take a little more vitamins or a little more protein. And he talks of that in that way. He doesn't get up and say, I don't feel good today. I feel lousy. I think I'll stay in bed. It might help me. No, he says, no, I'm not at my peak, which he stays with the positive terminology, and I might just take a little something to keep me at my peak. Anyway, this is a patch of thought that is important, and we need a further discussion on this, but we really have to move forward. But remember, there's an adage about a pot can be held by has two different handles. You take the handle that is more comfortable for you to put, not the hot handle, but the cool handle. So that's about the same thing in terminology. You take the terminology, they're the same thing, but they're positive terminology. And when you use positive terminology, you're dealing with positivity in language. And it's very important to do that. So you see life not as a struggle. People talk about becoming good a struggle. They say philosophy is too deep. These terminologies are negativity, a negative terminology. We kind of say, well, philosophy is something makes us feel better in the long run. You know, when you walk, you don't say, oh, walking is a struggle. You say, no, I feel better when I walk. I don't even realize I'm walking. My stress comes off of me. I feel better. I get someplace. It's an opportunity to grow. It might be slow. Sometimes we do less than others. Sometimes we go out, we only walk around one area. Doesn't matter that how much we do. We gauge our feelings that way. But we don't just sit back and say, oh, it's a struggle. Because when you start talking in those terms, it becomes a struggle. So especially when wisdom and beauty, the searching for truth, it's not a struggle. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to grow. And when these choices come, and what if there's I see there's a log across the path as we're walking. Well, someone gets in despair, but I don't, and you don't. We looked at, well, this is an opportunity to use our strength, build our muscles, put our mind at, and strengthen our mind by making a decision on what to do, how to lift that piece of wood out of the path so that we can help others and help ourselves, and we can learn patience and fortitude and prudence and disposition, courtesy while we're doing it, and keeping a good demeanor and walking away. See, now how this is something we can build on, all our virtues. It's given us a chance to build our virtues. We have to be active. We have to exercise our value system in order to keep it strong. If you see someone grunting and moaning and complaining and ready to go home, you say, I don't want to be like this. This is a part of the trip. I can do it in a tranquil manner. There's nothing here that bothers my stress, bothers my demeanor. I'm building up my fortitude. I'm building up all these other virtues. So living and talking in those terms is very, very important for grace and beauty. And when you think of life giving opportunities to grow, to improve, to self-aware yourself, to go up that path and to see the beautiful foliage and see the clean air and the birds are singing, and knowing that when you get to the end there's even more flowers, there's a progression of more and more flowers and more beauty, and you're more attuned to it because you get less and less strength, less and less stress. I meant, and so this is how I look at things. So it's just a perspective of life. It seems simple, but it's not. It could be simple to do. You practice it. You practice observations. When everybody's complaining, you look at the good side of life. What's happening? What is being built? And people will admire that, your strength for doing that. So this is a big concept of grace and beauty and flow. But we have to keep moving or we won't get there. So let's move on. Let's admire those beautiful trees and the blue sky above as we see amongst the branches as we move. These wise men have created this path for us. And this is nature's path, the laws of nature. Let's stay one with the path as we walk, as their Eastern philosophers recommended. And they also recommended do it with courtesy and kindness. And it's important to do that. Respect each other's. Respect the elders. Filial piety is another virtue that is high on their list for cardinal virtues. Respecting the older people, their wisdom and their experience. Let's not just drink a lot of caffeine and coffee, and let's not keep talking and so fast and so furiously as if that's important, to just get as much or yelling or... Matter of fact, let's slow down a little bit. I think I'll slow down a little bit. And I think I'll focus on the path. Focus on the beauty. Focus on the clouds above that go by like pillows. So, here we are, going up the path, knowing that we are, each step, each movement is growth and improvement, and a better sense of beauty, a better sense of truth. There's nothing wrong with that. That's positivity. There's no struggle. Walking isn't a struggle. Moving inch by inch isn't a struggle. Step by step is not a struggle. It's an opportunity to feel better. The wolf loves this. I heard the other day that a wolf spends many, many hours walking a day, maybe 10, 12 hours a day. It's on the move. 8 to 12 hours on the move. That's what it does. It walks. We should walk. I'm sure our ancestors walked a great deal looking for food, and they were on the go. It's a great thing to walk, to move, to be active. We weren't meant to just be sitting around all the time, sedentary. We're made to move, be active. Our mind should be active. That's not struggle. That's a good thing. An opportunity to improve is an action. So these actions are not... You can flow. Flow is action. So improvement is an action. But it's guided by principles that we have decided are worthwhile. And so these are not struggling actions. These are actions that we chose, which make us feel better and give us growth. And as we grow, we see beauty, we see truth, we see a well-being. And if you don't, there's something wrong. The first thing is terminology and flow. Now, flow, you think about many of the arts while you're thinking. You think of music, you think of dance, you think of even architecture is a fine art, poetry, theater, act, that's an imagination growing. So all this should be encompassed in beauty and in wisdom and understanding. Let the imagination to go. It's nothing wrong with an imagination. It's not a subjective thinking. It's imagination is putting an idea forward and saying, can this be true? And if it's not, okay. But sometimes it's just a way to think of what could be. And perhaps, maybe someday we could fly. Our ancestors might say that. And here we are going around the world and space flying. So these things can become true. If we want to think in terms of setting up our tent tonight, we image it. We think about it. And we plan ahead. So if something goes wrong, we have already thought about it. So imagination is not a bad thing. It's not mystical in any way. or believing in something in mystical or fantasy, or we're just saying what could, if it could be. So let's move ahead. Let's move ahead. We're slowing down here. I want to get to that pond and set up that tent. But I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying the flow of this conversation. I'm enjoying the pathway. I love walking. It's just an opportunity to see all this beauty and moving forward and creating a something like the clouds that go above and how they can just flow through without any anxiety. That is a wise man who can do that, who can live above the turmoil and chaos of life that people struggle with. They call it struggle. They are struggling, I suppose. I see them from the mountaintop sometimes, or picture myself from the mountain, looking down, and these people struggling and fighting over job-related events and different things that stress them out. They don't understand what we have and what we don't have, what we're capable of doing, what we capably not doing. If they understand some of these things, they wouldn't be struggling. They'd have a better attitude. That's all it is. It's a mental attitude. That's what life is about, understanding the importance of attitude and what we have, what we don't have, and think about the choices we have. That's the freedom that we have to make choices, to look into ourselves and to be able to improve our habits, our line of thought. And that's what it's about. Then you put them in actions. You build habits and character from these things. And we move slowly. We make decisions that are more accurate, that stay on the path, don't go into the briars. Harmony with nature, harmony with nature's laws, one with the path. I like to flow in the path. I like to imagine myself on a carpet, like the Eastern carpet ride, looking down at all the foolishness that people get themselves in, the struggles they get themselves, the briars. You can see them up there. You can see a good view of all people getting in briars. Greed, negativity of all kinds, thinking in negative terms, not moving. We're actually going backwards sometimes. See this all the time. This is where your satisfaction comes in. If you feel lonely, you look backwards. And there's a reward in looking backwards. Not for too long, because we have to keep moving. But every so often, stop, turn around, and look at the struggles. These are the struggles and the chaos that people get themselves in. They're not flowing gently toward truth. They're not flowing gently toward understanding and wisdom. They're not picking out good values to make decisions with. So let's move ahead. We've looked at that. We don't have to look at it long to understand that. When we get to a point where we seem to be tired and we question what we're doing, look backwards a little bit. Take a little bit of time to turn around and look backwards. Try to keep walking forward, but look backwards, because you'll see that's a reward in saying, I'm doing the right thing. So let's turn around, go forward. We're almost there now. And let's flow. Let's flow. How can one flow so easily? There in the Eastern thought, flow is a wonderful subject. And it's actually, I would consider it a virtue of learning how to flow, not only through art, which allows you, in music. Did I say music? But using music and other art to enjoy life. Tell me something. Is playing a trumpet a struggle? Some people may look at, that's too hard. No, it's not a struggle. once you begin to know the notes, once you begin to hear the melodic tone, people who play the trumpet love the trumpet. Can't wait to get it to the mouthpiece, to play. Same thing with any instrument. It's a beautiful thing. You can feel it. You watch an artist, well, any type of artist, but if you watch them, they just flow with that music. They allow the music to flow within and without them, and the more they become attuned with the music, they're not in a struggle at all. They're in a higher plane of satisfaction and deep satisfaction. I mean, a very tranquil place. So too is understanding the way, understanding this path, enjoying this path. So let's move ahead. We're almost there. But this flowing, there's a point where this is an art just to flow in your mind with language, understanding language and using language in a lyrical way and in a positive way, like we talked about briefly. And so much that we how does one get this? In the Eastern, to go back to that, in Eastern philosophy, they talk about flowing in a sense, a deep sense, wise sense, not like we've been talking about, but even deeper, where one almost becomes one with the energy of the atmosphere and the energy that surrounds the universe and the world. We know all these invisible energies, magnetism, and we know there's a lot of waves going, microwaves and radiation, all different waves that are invisible to the eye. So we know there's an energy. What Plato says the greatest energy is an idea. So energies. Ideas are energy. So the Eastern thought is that we flow with that energy. Let that energy drive us. Somehow capture that energy of the world, of that the world provides us. Be so in tune with that energy that we can bounce ourselves with that energy and flow forward with that energy, and we don't have to even work as hard. Now, this is a technique that needs to be explained and talked about. But one thing I would know is if you're going to be attuned so deeply with the energy of the universe, you have to clean and detoxify your body and your mind. You have to learn how to detoxify the mind and make it clearer, and find, the closer you come to truth, the closer to you to detoxify your body and let out that you don't need, so that you have an empty space for more ideas and creative ideas and positive ideas and a deeper understanding in life. The clearer your mind is, you'll be able to flow with those energies. You'll sense that energy. Here we are in the woods. Don't you sense that peacefulness, the energy of the woods? As soon as you enter the woods, you find a certain energy that you can hear all the crickets, you can hear all the noises, and when you walk in the woods alone, you can hear things that you haven't heard before. You can deep breathe. You feel it throughout your whole body. Excuse me. So there isn't a way you can clean your body mentally and physically. Start eating right, start getting rid of the toxic waste that's in your eating habits. As we know, we feel better. Same thing with the mind. You feel better. And you can pick up this energy a little bit better. This energy that's swirling throughout the universe. And be able to encompass that energy to move you. Whereas all you have to do is bounce that energy. which is another virtue, balance. And we'll talk about that, but we have to keep moving. We have to keep moving. But this balance, this energy of flowing, this energy of this capturing the energy and not utilizing our own so much, but you can do that with a positive mindset and a wiser mindset. And so that's the first step in bringing some rationality into this idea of flowing, motion without effort, when you can move without effort. Now, we'll talk about it again, but I did want to bring this up before we got to the campsite. And we're just about there at the end of this curve here. We pretty much stayed on the path today. I didn't see anybody fall off the path. I appreciate people allowing me to talk fluently without stopping and talking about subject or sitting and looking at the vegetation and wondering what that plant is. I appreciate that. I appreciate today was just trying to have a goal of walking along this path of wisdom, going toward truth. And as we stop here, we get the tent out. It'll only take us a while to put up the tent. But we've gotten here before dark in order to do that. And we can see the beauty around us. We can see an idea of what beauty can be, what understanding can be, what philosophy is all about in its basic form. And that's what we want to do. Be as clear and as focused in language that we understand in order to have a better well-being, getting to the end of the path, setting up a goal. It's not that nudges us forward. These goals change. There's like buoys in the water. There's a guide. They're a guide. These goals. You set a goal. It's a guide. Don't get too frustrated, stressed out if you get closer to the buoy and you really say, well, it's a guide. We go on. We move on. We don't really even touch the buoy. It's not the goal. The goal is to sort of set it as a place where we kind of want to go toward. If we don't, we might learn that that's not the place we want to go. We want to go toward another direction as we move forward. So but we did sort of reach where we wanted to today, and I appreciate it. Tomorrow we can go back to terminology and become more serious about things, but we have to take a break every so often. Remember, beauty and truth is a deep, satisfying thing that we must keep forward. As a part of philosophy, we must remember where beauty and truth lies. That if you're not getting a deep, satisfying feeling in what you're doing through understanding, then you have to give yourself a break. Like there's a pan with a cover, and it's called a pressure cooker. And this pressure cooker has a valve on it. And if the steam gets too much, the valve cover moves from side to side, allows the steam to come out. And some of those pots have a little rubber safety, a double safety. So that'll pop right out if you get too much steam. So it's got a couple of safety valves that are important. We too have to have those safety valves. We can actually get stressed out by thinking too much, by trying to find the exact answer. And so we need to have safety valves. Music, art, enjoyment, hikes, exercise, singing, dancing, architecture. Even architecture is considered a fine art. Imagination in theater, pretending you're somebody else for a while. Today we went to the site, the campsite, and tomorrow we'll sit and talk about terminology. So thanks for coming, and that's all I have to say for today. Thank you.